We've been discussing the Diamondbacks and the latest.
Swindling, upping.
Stick 'em up.
Yeah.
It's a bank robbery that's going on because the D-backs have now come in, and don't worry, we've negotiated. I don't know how these negotiations keep getting worse. We're finding out a little bit from this meeting that they had last week between the quote-unquote stakeholders that included everyone except taxpayers.
Why would we be involved? They're only taking our money.
So the representative from the governor's office, the mayor, the county supervisors,
the
D-backs, right. So they all get together and they go, how can we give more money to the D-backs? Every time there's a new proposal, it keeps getting worse. And now they say, now we've mixed the proposals. And somehow what they were able to mix were the worst parts of all proposals.
You really feel that way? You feel like this only gets worse?
The closest thing that we have to anything good is that they put a cap on how much money they can take from recapture, which means that the sales tax dollars and the income taxes from the stadium would go back to stadium repairs.
Okay.
They put a cap on it. $500 million over the course of the next 25 years. Before, there wasn't a cap. That's the closest thing we have to something good.
You mentioned, though, there's also like a 3% inflation figure tied to that, too?
Yeah, 3% inflation adjusted annual adjustment. So if inflation doesn't go up 3%, it doesn't matter. They still get that 3%. In other words, their cost of living increase is more than what you get on your Social Security.
Oh.
So don't worry, they're going to be taken care of.
And this is basically every year for how long? 25 years?
25 years, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money.
It's
going to be a lot more than $500 million.
Yep, that's exactly what it's going to be. So, not only that, but the Diamondbacks opposed equally matching taxpayer dollars with their own to cover the cost. They say that matter's still under discussion. So, there is no guarantee the Diamondbacks are going to put in a penny of their own to the stadium. There is no guarantee that they're going to stay here. They say, well, they would put some sort of a penalty on it if they leave. But the penalties that they've discussed in the past.
Yeah, the clawback feature, it was pretty
paltry.
Wimpy. I recall, like, if they left in, like, the next couple years, it was going to be, like, what, $50 million?
Yeah, I think it was $10 million for the first 10 years, 5 after that.
It was
and then
not much.
It was paltry, and it was less than what they're taking in taxpayer dollars. Not only that, but remember the Diamondbacks originally said all we want is the same deal the Cardinals have. But the Cardinals don't have the same deal. The Cardinals have some recapture, except that the Cardinals don't have control over all of the events at State Farm Stadium. Mm-hmm. That's run by a third party. Whereas the D-backs have control and they get all of the proceeds. That's their deal. So they get to operate as a management company making those fees. Cardinals don't get that. But they also want to have the same thing that the Cardinals have as far as recapture. Now, there's something else that came up here. I keep telling you what they like to say is, you either give us all of this or else we might leave. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, threats.
But then when they're asked, they go, we're committed to Arizona. We're committed. But we're just keeping all of our options open. So it starts to sound a little, going to make an offer you can't refuse. Hey, listen, we are committed. I would hate for something bad to happen to your nice little shop here. Sure would be a tragedy if there was supposed to be like a fire or something that would happen to your little shop here. But don't worry. You continue to pay all these protection fees. We just make sure none of that ever happens. Because I got to tell you, I'm committed to your little shop being successful. I would hate to see something happen to it if you stopped paying.
So like a shakedown and a stick 'em up?
So the notes from this meeting said that one of the team's representatives, supposedly a representative, insinuated, and then in parentheses threatened, and that's from the notes, that Major League Baseball would pull spring training from Arizona if a deal were not reached. That comment about spring training came after participants said the person referenced his connections to Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred and former Major League Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig. While the Diamondbacks, and again, this is from AZ Central, while the Diamondbacks likely did not have a sway to affect the future of spring training, the comments stuck with multiple participants. In other words, hey, not for nothing, I sure would hate to see something happen to everybody else in this block, too. Hey, look, I know some guys, and I can tell you this. The commissioner, he says he would hate for something bad to happen to everybody else on this block, too, if you don't pay up.
So why would the Indians and the Dodgers and everybody else leave, though, if the Diamondbacks, heaven forbid, left?
I mean, I'm not saying nothing. All I'm saying is, why would Major League Baseball want to have spring training someplace? In fact, To that, the guy who supposedly said it, his name is Andrew Cohn.
Yeah, who is this guy?
Andrew Cohn said it was fiction to characterize his words as a threat. He said his comments came after a discussion about what would happen if there was no funding agreement. He confirmed that he had spoken to the former commissioner, who he considers a friend, about the Diamondback situation. He said he did not speak with the current commissioner, Rob Manfred. Here's his quote, as he told the Republic. The comment that it's a terrible look to have such a commitment from the Cactus League in spring training in Arizona and not have a hometown team here. So he's saying, it would be a bad look, don't you think? Sure would hate for spring training to be affected. I know Major League Baseball probably not going to be a big fan of having spring training someplace where they ain't even got a team.
Well, I think he is right on that. It would be kind of weird to have spring training here without a Arizona Diamondbacks. But spring training was out here before there were an Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yes, that is correct. So it wouldn't be the first time, right?
Well, yeah, again, spring training was here before the team even existed.
So
it wouldn't be the first time. When I was growing up, we would go to spring training games, Milwaukee Brewers, out in Sun City out there.
Sure. Yeah. And no D-backs.
No D-backs.
They hadn't come here yet.
It was Major League Baseball, though.
Right.
We still go out to it.
But again, I got to bring this back to the poor leadership we've got, who weren't able to flip this around and go, hey, not for nothing, Sure would be a shame for Major League Baseball to lose a team in a town where they're hosting their spring training. Everybody's from Brooklyn now. Not for nothing would be terrible, don't you think?
I would like you to be at this meeting just to start doing these things.
This guy, this Andrew Cohn, who may or may not be a representative of the team and may or may not be a representative of the city. We're going to find out more on him in a minute. All of this stuff. And he says it'd be terrible. It'd be a bad look. You know what? It would be a bad look. So why don't you, Diamondbacks, go back to Major League Baseball and say, hey, we're trying to get all this money from the taxpayers, and all we want to do is take all of their money in order to fix this stadium up, and we're telling them we're going to leave. Why don't you go back and tell them that they're going to have spring training in a town where you've decided to vacate? Stop with the or else negotiating. I hate being bent over a barrel. And this Andrew Cohn character keeps popping up. He's been in other discussions about the team, too. What you don't know, and nobody wants you to say, is who does he even represent? Why is this guy even in the building when the talks are going on? You decide if he is who he claims and why the others are content to have him at the table.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.